Somebody needs to hear this today. You are not too broken for God to use you. I know what it feels like to think you've messed up too badly, to feel like the mistakes, the pains, the failure have disqualified you from God's purpose. But let me tell you, God does not require perfection. He requires a willing heart. Let's talk about the Samaritan woman at the well in John chapter 4. This was a woman rejected by her community. She had a past that people loved to gossip about. She was considered an outcast, somebody to avoid. And yet, that's exactly the person Jesus chose to reveal himself to. He didn't just speak to her, he entrusted her with the message of the gospel, and she became the first evangelist in her community despite her history. Do you get what that means? God didn't wait for her to clean up her past. He didn't wait for her to get it all together. He showed up in the middle of her brokenness and called her worthy. Liberation theology reminds us that God's love shows up first in the margins. Jesus didn't seek out the powerful. He sought out the rejected, the forgotten, the misunderstood. And womanist theology teaches us that Black women in particular have been conditioned to carry shame, to believe that we are too much or not enough. Your resilience is not a flaw, it's a gift. God has been strengthening you through every setback, every loss, every disappointment. Now, God isn't asking you to have a perfect story. He's asking you to have an open heart. He's asking you to trust him with the parts of you that feel messy, unworthy, or unfinished. Think about Moses. He stuttered. Think about King David. He was an adulterer and murderer. Think about Paul. He persecuted Christians. And yet God still used them. Why? Because their flaws didn't disqualify them. They qualified them. God doesn't want a polished version of you. He wants the real you. The one with the scars, the doubts, the one who's still healing. That's why I wrote Shameless Audacity, because healing isn't a prerequisite for being used by God. Your brokenness isn't a setback. It's part of the testimony. The very thing you've been ashamed of might be the key to someone else's breakthrough. So stop thinking that you need to have it all together. Stop letting shame silence your voice. If Jesus could sit at the well with the Samaritan woman and call her worthy, why wouldn't he do the same for you? Comment, God can use me, if you believe this. And pre-order my book, Shameless Audacity, launching March 18th.